the biggest entrepreneur platform on the planet. This is Business Rockstars.
Well, Michelle, thank you so much for joining us today. For those who are not familiar with you and your entrepreneurial background, tell us a little bit about you and how your journey led you to Vision Media.
Absolutely. Hi, Brittany. It's great to be here to talk about myself and my company. It's exciting to be able to share information. My background, I started out in law. I was going to be a lawyer. Well, I was a lawyer for almost 10 years. And I never really felt like I fit in. I didn't really love the practice of law. What I loved about it was the deal making and the decision making. And I hated that as lawyers, we were not allowed into certain rooms because it was where all the interesting things were taking place and all the creativity. So I really committed to trying to get over to the business side of decision making as soon as I could. And that was about 10 years into my career. And I did consulting for a lot of years. And I worked with the type of people that ran into burning buildings. And so you didn't call us unless something was on fire, bad, a huge mess. And so I grew up, from the time I was a baby lawyer and business person to really solving complex business problems. And so that was in all kinds of different industries. And so with Vision Media, I have a lot of relationships with investors, people who own companies, they buy companies, they try to fix companies, and then they sell them. They add different companies to it. They really do a lot of different things to try to be creative about growth. And so one of my friends, a private equity friend of mine, called me. Actually, she texted me at 4 a.m. on a Sunday morning. And when you get a text at 4 a.m. on a Sunday morning, you know something is wrong. And so she wanted me to go take a look at Vision Media, just to walk the halls and understand what was going on at the company. I did so. Flash forward about 6 months into my consulting engagement, I ended up being the president and chief operating officer of the company.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So being a lawyer, obviously, prepares you for some sort of crazy entrepreneurial ride because it's not easy to become a lawyer. For those who are not aware, let's take a step back. What is Vision Media?
Vision Media, we're really a marketing services company. We primarily serve the media and entertainment business. And so when you think about it, none of us ever give this any thought, but when a movie is developed and then produced and then edited and fixed and made and ready to go to market, there's a whole process involved in bringing a film to market or a piece of TV content to market. And one of those pieces involves publicity, marketing, promotions, premieres, and getting influencers involved to talk about the content in films. And so sometimes films and content get sent to audiences, VIPs, through streaming, a digital process. So Vision Media does that. Our most discerning clients come to us and say, hey, we've got Star Wars that we haven't released to a theater yet, but we want to show these 1,000 VIPs the film. They come to Vision Media because we're known for our security, for our streaming platform. But then maybe it's the holidays and Universal wants to do an amazing basket for 1,000 of its closest friends. So 10 different items land in one of our warehouses, and we use a concierge service and a white glove service to assemble those items and send them out to Universal's most important VIPs. So there's a physical component to our business and a digital component to our business. But what we do at the end of the day is we work with distributors, marketers, and publicists to get the word out for films and content.
That's so interesting and such an important market.
Yep.
So let's kind of go back. So you kind of got into this role as the CEO of Vision Media. What was that process like? Was it the first time you were ever the CEO of a company?
Yes.
Okay, so what was the learning curve there?
In this type of company, we call it the lower middle market. It's not a huge publicly traded company. There's really two components to a company like mine. There's an art and a science. And the art is in understanding the culture, dealing with people, really influencing people to make change and to do things differently than they ever have before, to teach them business skills. Those are my strengths. That's what I do. My job is people at the end of the day. And the science part of it is the financials. Really, really critical. A lot of times in these smaller businesses, there may not have been systems in place for proper reporting. The financials may just not really be ready for prime time. If you're looking for cash or you're looking to go into the market to do bigger things with the company. And so, like I said, I was called to the company sort of on an emergency basis. Some executives had left. People were wondering about the direction of the company. And so I came in as kind of the fixer to figure out how to deal with it all. I quickly developed relationships with a lot of the founders we had in the business. This business had acquired a number of businesses. And so there were still founders of those businesses involved. Imagine 3 or 4 companies coming together. They all have their own executive teams and everybody trying to be one company. It's really tough to do without having an outsider like me come in and say, all right, what is our lane? Where should we focus? So the big reason for me getting involved was to help bring all these companies together and figure out a strategy. The more tactical side of it, this was my first experience. I had done a lot of consulting. I had been in a lot of lead roles, leading engagements for consulting, and done pieces of what I do at Vision. But this was my shot. And when I got that 4 a.m. text and I talked to my husband about coming and making the commitment, I said, this is my shot. This is that phone call. Right. I think everybody gets that one phone call. And my biggest piece of advice is everybody, take the call and take the risk and jump. And so that's exactly what I did with this company. And so as time went on, we had great financial results. We were able to do some really creative things. And I went out and said to my boss, Brent Humphreys, who's the chairman of our board, he's with AllianceBernstein Private Credit Investors. And I said, it's time for me to be the CEO. And he said, yes. And he actually said he was excited about it. So that was good. So that's how I ended up here in the CEO role.
That kind of leads me to my next question. As you said, sometimes you have to take the risk and jump. Entrepreneurship sometimes feels like one failure after the next.
Yeah.
And people kind of get so scared and they let that fear of failure get in the way of pursuing their passion and following their dreams. What advice do you have for someone who really wants to take that leap of faith, but is so scared and letting that get in the way?
Failure is a big, big theme in my career and in my life. In fact, I said to a group of executives when I joined Vision Media, listen to me. I have failed more times than anyone in this room. I know what I'm talking about. And it's true. The more you fail, the more you learn. So failure to me has become a part of the process. It's information. And when you're a CEO and you're fronting a company that is trying to grow, it is your job to run way out in front of where everybody else is, where it's very lonely and risky, and to risk failure and to fall on your face. And I had a conversation with one of our board members recently, and he said, you're not afraid to just go out there and fall on your face and fail fast and move on to the next thing. And that's exactly how I view failure. I think maybe when I turned 40, I realized there's no cocktail parties happening where people are standing in a room talking about Michelle Ross's failures. People just aren't paying that much attention to what I'm doing. So there's nobody watching. All it is, it's an opportunity for you to learn and to grow from it.
That's so true. A lot of people just get in their head and let that get in the way. And It's a shame because a lot of amazing things can happen.
Yeah.
When you were first starting out as the CEO of Vision Media, what was one of the biggest challenges that you faced and how did you overcome it and kind of become stronger on the other end?
The biggest challenge was bringing 4 or 5 companies together that had been acquired. And so it took, there were people elements of it, there were product elements of it, there were cultural elements of it, really tricky. And so we had to be very structured about what we were doing, why we were doing it, how we were doing it, and what the result was going to be. Mm-hmm. And so I implemented, I use OKRs, objectives and key results, really critical in running a business, but also restructuring or transforming a business. And so we put an executive team together of people that you may not have necessarily expected to be executives. But my style is to go into a company and see who are the people that really know the industry, who are the people that really are hungry to do something different, and who are most coachable. And so we put together an executive team of people who are relatively inexperienced in the way of being executives, but very hungry and interested in, reaching a goal. And so we were structured. That's point number one. And point number two, I took certain risks. If you haven't noticed, I'm a female CEO, and so I did a lot of unconventional things that I was able to get away with. I think we remodeled the building, right? We started office to office, and we got in groups of people who worked together to actually do it yourself remodel. We had a huge meeting coming up, and our conference room was like circa 1980s, at some point. And we took the weekend and we remodeled it, and we turned it into something really amazing. And so packaging is really important for a company. And so remodeling wasn't just, hey, I'm a girl and I want the place to look, more feminine.
Right.
It was cultural. And it was, when somebody walks into our company, I want them to have a certain point of view about what we're doing and how together we are. So the packaging was important.
That's amazing. And that's so true. The more you feel at home somewhere, I feel like the more things flourish.
Exactly.
As you stated, you're a powerful female executive in the media space. What advice do you have for our young female audience who's listening, who is thinking, wow, I want to do what Michelle does? What kind of tips or tricks do you have in your toolbox?
Yeah, I would say, to get into the media space, you don't need to start out in media, right? So you don't need to start out as somebody's assistant at an agency or necessarily working on sets. That's a lot of fun for people to do, and I encourage it. But I was not in the media and entertainment business before I came to Vision. The reason I am now in the media space, or have a prominent role and a point of view in media, is because I specialized in something else that was needed in this industry. And so not just in my company, but in this industry. So if you look at what's going on right now in the media and entertainment business, there's a lot of change, a lot of transformation, a lot of restructuring, and not just because of COVID. So what was needed in this industry was somebody who could understand what transformation looked like, what were the various levers that could be pulled to get there, and what were some outside ideas that we could bring into the space to try to make us relevant and ready for the future. And so what I say to people is, do you for a lot of your career. I did me. I was a lawyer. I was a consultant. I moved. I flipped. I did this and that. I was relatively creative, but I was more of a business person. But at the end of the day, the reason my phone rang or my text rang at 4 a.m. here was not because I was a media and entertainment expert or a film expert. It was because I was someone that could come in, look at a seriously complex issue, and work with people to solve it. And so start out get any job. I used to say to people, get into the stream of commerce. If you can't find a job, go work anywhere and get your mind going. And because of the way the universe works and the way energy works, I'm a weird Californian here talking about energy, but something, you will draw in the right energy and the right people that will move you along that path. And if it's right for you, at the age of, 47, I got into the entertainment industry.
Right.
So don't worry about where you are now. Just do you.
Just live in the moment. It will work out.
Yep.
As you said, this past year has been challenging for so many businesses. How did you guys, one, stay afloat, and two, stay innovative during this whole turbulent, past year?
So two things. I have to thank my board of directors, our investors, Alliance Bernstein Private Credit Investors. They have been, my rock. And not only have they backed me by being at the other end of the phone when I call, but they've backed me with their money, right? At the end of the day, that is what is needed to keep these companies afloat. And so amazing investors, financial backing, and people that believe in the mission and what we're doing. The United States government with the PPP program, thank you for noticing that businesses like mine are so amazing and worth saving, but during this year, it was hard. So shout out to the money people.
Yeah.
But then tactically, we had been pivoting our business before COVID hit. So we knew that at some point, so much was going to switch to digital and virtual. And so we had a streaming platform that we were using for the awards guild, right? So Nomadland needs to be shown to all the Academy members so that they can vote. Nomadland comes from our platform. We are they're streaming Nomad from our platform, for example. Actually, not Nomad exactly, because we didn't do that one. Hulu did that one, but you know what I mean.
Right.
And so we were doing that before COVID. And when I came into this company, we assembled a management team that said, let's pick a lane. Who are we? As far as our company goes, what are we? We're a tech company, but what are we focused on? Because we were focused on too many things. And so when COVID hit, our clients said to us, well, hey, we'll put Star Wars on your streaming platform before it gets released to the movies. So we trust you. We're supposed to have a live premiere in 2 weeks, and it was beginning of March or middle of March. Can you guys handle our premiere for us virtually? And that's exactly what we started doing. And so we were somebody that studios could turn to, that could make their virtual events around content happen, even though people couldn't show up at a movie theater. So we really pivoted our business. And now we're getting into really exciting things. It's not just how do you make something look like it does in person. It's more of a hybrid approach. In the future, what you're going to see is, yes, you're going to have a live event, but you're going to have a virtual component to that. So Vision Media plays a huge role in what that virtual experience looks like when it comes to film and content.
That's amazing. And good for you guys, obviously, for pivoting during these times. Where do you kind of see media in the next 5 or 10 years? What do you think is kind of going to be on the horizon?
Yeah, and we're seeing it a lot. And so if you have to write down some things to say, right? If I'm a startup, if I'm thinking about a startup, I'm real technical, I'm a technologist, and I'm thinking about a startup, write these things down and figure out how you can fit into it. 5G, 5G, we all remember the days when there was buffering. When we're trying to watch something. 5G is going to take care of any idea of buffering you ever had. There's going to be 1.7 billion people that are subscribing to 5G enabled networks by, I think it's 2025, right? So huge. The next thing is touchless anything, digital ticketing, even things that are technology and app enabled that prevent you from having to touch anything.
Right.
That's why all this cryptocurrency is so exciting.
Yeah.
And the next thing is thinking of the world in terms of a metaverse. We're hearing a lot of talk about it. There's a lot of things being tried right now that are succeeding and failing, but definitely there will be this concept that there will be this sort of immersive experience virtually that will be enabled by the blockchain. And so before, you and I would enter into a contract and we may lose it, and it was paper and it was stuck in someone's drawer, and now it's online and it can be hacked. And so he said, she said, tomorrow it's a blockchain where artists and creators are really going to own their work because they're going to be tied to one version of the truth that's going to exist. So that's going to really change the entertainment industry tremendously. The final thing I would say is creators, a creator's economy. We're hearing about that everywhere. It's that I'm the creator and I'm my own CEO. Not only do I have the tools to create my content and to distribute it to you, but I can also build my own empire. I can have merchandise and sell it to you right from my living room. I can create and do and produce in so many ways without a middleman. And I think that is impacting entertainment tremendously.
It is. It really is. The be your own boss and be your own creator. And it's so wild. What would you say kind of is in your success toolbox, right? Like, is it being positive? Is it a certain app that you use? What kind of keeps you going throughout the day?
I am a very, very curious person, I guess you would say. And our CFO loves to say he likes to hire curious people, because curious people, if you tell them something, they're going to color outside of the lines and try to track down more information about it. And so I am incredibly curious. And so because of that, when I walk into a room or into a meeting, I usually know way more about the topic than almost anyone in the room, unless they're the expert presenting.
Right.
And so research, I sit on my second screen. If I was watching a film right now with you in it, I'd probably be on my second screen trying to figure out what your story is or where
Right.
what's going on. And so curiosity, knowing more about my audience than anyone would ever expect. So knowing your audience, I don't like to walk into a situation, whether it's a meeting or anything, without fully understanding what I'm walking into so that I can adjust my energy and my approach to the audience.
Mhm.
That is really huge. The other thing that is a big rule around vision media culturally is to assume good intentions. And so there's so many times in life where things happen. You're left off of an email, or something doesn't appear right, or something happens that makes you feel as though somehow there's this big conspiracy. There's the Britney meeting where we decided that you're not going to be involved.
Right.
Um, it's not true, and it doesn't happen 99.9% of the time. So when you receive a communication or you hear about something, um, if you assume good intentions and that it was made with the right intentions, maybe it wasn't delivered perfectly, it's going to make your day a lot more peaceful. That's a biggie for me.
That's so
Um,
true.
the other thing is be authentic. I mean, I think I learned early on as a young woman, in law, I was in big law firms. I was constantly surrounded by big situations and deals. I was often the only woman in the room, but it's a strength, and from day one, I was always able to be my authentic self. And being my authentic self in this role is so valuable. We'll have a town hall and my kids will walk up and they'll be in the screen. I'm on the phone with investors and my kid will walk up and put his arm around me and like be in the camera.
Yeah.
I'm a mom. I'm authentic. I own that. I drive a minivan. Um, and it makes it okay for other parents within my company, men and women. Dads are in the same boat.
Right.
Authenticity really allows you to really push your agenda,
So
in the way
true.
that you want to.
I love that, especially, you can't pretend to be someone else. That can only happen
Right,
for so long.
right.
As you said, you're a mother, you're a wife. Do you believe in work-life balance, or do you think that's kind of one big myth?
I believe in being authentic and real and being in situations that are not toxic. And so in my life, if I look back at my younger self when I was 20, starting out my career, I was in a lot of different situations that were toxic for me. I worked too hard. I was a pleaser. I was too loyal. People were not nice. There were things that were dysfunctional around me. And, if I could just stick it through, um, I think you need to not be afraid to move on from situations that are toxic. And
Mhm.
not all situations are toxic, right? Some situations you're just not the right fit anymore, or they're not the right fit for you. It happens all the time.
Right.
Um, so the first step to work-life balance is being in a situation that nurtures kind of who you are, your authentic self, right? We don't exist, we're not a church, right? We don't exist to lift people up necessarily as a company, but if it's not feeling good, there's no way to have a work-life balance, because work isn't just, oh, am I actually in front of a computer until 1 a.m? Work is, my gosh, am I thinking about this jerky colleague or boss all the way up until 1 a.m. and waking up in the middle of the night thinking about them? That's
Right.
toxic, and
Right.
that impacts a work-life balance. Um, the other thing is look for companies that have leaders that look like you. Um, I look like so many people in my company, and so nobody is afraid to say, "I'm going to the school play. My kid's not doing well today. I'm out. I'm home. I'm going to work at a different pace than you're expecting today because of my life situation." I just encourage people to be open.
Mhm.
And I'm very open as well. I mean, there was one instance before COVID. My son was up all night. He was sick. It was one of those days where this client was coming in to yell at us. The
Yeah.
client was mad,
Right.
and it was just going to be a heck of a meeting. And I just lost it on my way in, and I was like kind of a mess.
Yeah.
And I got into the office and I called my two closest confidants, two of my executives into my office, and I was a mess. And I said, I can't handle this. Like, do it, run with it.
Right.
So you have to be vulnerable and open. Um, until you're willing to do those things, there is no work-life balance,
Mhm.
because you're giving other people permission to infringe upon your personal space.
Right.
If it's your birthday or you're taking your cousin to the doctor or you're whatever, say it.
Right.
And you'll have more work-life balance.
It's so true. Knowing how to set boundaries is
Yep,
key for anyone in any stage of life.
that's right.
My last question, what's like a fun fact that would surprise someone who's never met you? That's kind of something fun or different or just anything.
A fun fact. I'm actually, and some people know this, my inner circle of people know this, I'm actually pretty, like really goofy. And I dance a lot. And it's because my kids dance a lot. If you're a mom and you have young kids and you're not doing a lot of dancing right now, then you better start because,
Yeah.
you know, and so there's a side of me, my friends and the people that are in my life are the people I've known for over 30 years, or people that I went to elementary school with, junior high. I mean, those are my true inner circle. And they know me more as just kind of a silly goofball type.
Yeah.
So it's, and that's the real me. I know I appear very maybe polished in a professional setting. And so even when a lot of people meet me, it's funny, they had heard about me or they heard the wrong things and they get on the phone with me or on a Zoom with me and they're like, wow, you're actually pretty nice, you know, and I'm like, what kind of reputation do I have? So I think the real me at home is very different probably than the professional me is what I would say. I don't
Totally.
know if it's a fun fact, but
Right.
it's true.
No, that's amazing. Michelle, thank you so much for joining
Thank
us
you.
today. Where can people learn about Vision Media and what you guys are doing?
Yep, we are at visionmedia.com. Our website has all the exciting fun facts about us. I'm on LinkedIn if you want to see my own take on some of the film reviews. I'm not a critic, I am an enthusiast, I say. So you'll see my take on all the different films that came out in 2020 and part of 2021. So we're very active on both LinkedIn and our website. So come check us out.
Michelle, thank you so much for joining us today. It was a
Thank you.
pleasure speaking with you.
Pleasure speaking with you too. Thank you.